Good morning. It's Wednesday morning. Today we're on Matthew 14, and we start a long passage that is very familiar, but I'm only going to read the first two verses today, and we're going to take it in little chunks. So immediately he made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. And when evening came, he was there alone. So the other side would be the other side, the Sea of Galilee. So going across the lake and I'll catch up to you. And they're like, we don't know how, but okay. Well, he's going to walk across the water, but we'll get to that. So he dismisses the crowds, and so then he's there alone, and he prays. He goes up to spend some time in the evening in prayer. And we think of Jesus as a super spiritual guy who didn't need anything and who knew everything and, could fix a Chevrolet, right? Jesus had to maintain his relationship with the Father just as we do. And Jesus knew that to do that, he needed some time undisturbed, away from the crowds, away from people's demands, where he could pray and, get serious with God. And that's what he does. And so he stands as an example for the rest of us to do the same thing. We need to pray. And, there's all kinds of advice out there. You can find it. Pray every day, pray at the same time, find a quiet place to sit and pray. However you want to manage it and do it, whatever works for you is good. But the thing is to do it. And to do it regularly and to do it consistently. And don't beat yourself up if one day you sleep late and you don't have time and you forget. That doesn't mean, you're lost forever. It just means you didn't do it today and you'll get back to it later. Give yourself some slack, But maintain your prayer life. That's one of the things that we see Jesus doing. And these little verses peek out of the gospel all over the place. We kind of skip them as we're reading because we want to get to the main event and the little stories. But there are a bunch of these places around. He always goes off to a lonely place, a deserted place, someplace where he is not in a village and he's alone. So, out in the wilderness, up in the mountains, someplace, wherever he can go. And some people say, well, I can worship God as well in the mountains as I can in church, or I can worship God on the golf course as well as I can in church. And okay, frankly, folks, that's an excuse. If you want to play golf, but don't play games. Eugene Peterson, who was a famous Presbyterian pastor and later a chaplain at a university, and actually became very well known for writing a paraphrase of the scripture called The Message. Eugene Peterson wrote a lot of books, and one of the books he wrote, he described his keeping of the Sabbath. And he and his wife did it every week on I think a Tuesday. Every Tuesday they would go off and they would hike. And they would just go someplace and hike, and they wouldn't talk. It wasn't a day to talk about things. It was just a day of silence and prayer and being alone. And they would go and do that. He said Saturday they would spend, mowing the grass and doing all the things you got to do at home on Saturdays. But their Sabbath day was a different day of the week from Sunday, and it was the day that they spent alone with God together. So not really alone, but you get it. And that's what they did. And I think he describes a good practice in that. You don't have to go hiking. You don't have to go off someplace. You just sort of dissociate yourself from all that stuff, all the tasks that are in front of you, all the stuff on your desk and all the stuff, piling up around the house is going, ooh, pay attention to me, pay attention to me. You don't have to pay attention to that stuff. Take some time for yourself and pray. Pray for the world, pray for the church, pray for the sick, and finally pray for yourself if you've got anything left that you need to pray for. And then I think your life will improve. And that's the goal here, is to get you closer to God. So let's try that. Tomorrow we'll keep reading. We'll see what happens when the disciples are out on the lake in the boat and Jesus needs to catch up to them. What does he do? We'll find out.